We're streaming and we are good to go.
Hi, I'm Jack.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are Glib. We are recording this on Tuesday, of course, July 26, 2016, a day that should mark in history as the first time a major party elects a female candidate for U.S. president, and of course the debut of SmackDown Live. We'll get into movies, the culture that was, and all kinds of good stuff in just a bit. But first, as always, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call This Week in Geek. How are you, Lauren?
I am recovering from Comic-Con, even though I wasn't there. Because let's face it, no one goes to Comic-Con anymore. I mean, people go, but it's such a small portion of the people who actually pay attention to what's going on at Comic-Con that you don't go. Like, it's amazing how much news comes out of it, but how many people don't go? Because it's a little insane. It's so insane that, celebrities have to walk around in masks in order to make stuff happen and to see anything, which is not new. So I'm not really going to talk about most of the stuff that came out of Comic-Con because first off, most of it are trailers, and what are we going to do? Talk about trailers? That's my view on the subject. And listen, there's so much that came out and covering such a wide variety of topics that it'd be impossible to cover it all. I will, however, talk about two little tiny things that might have been overlooked in your giant Comic-Con coverage of trailers galore. One being the aforementioned celebrities walking around in masks. Now, this is not a new thing. Adam Savage has made practically a yearly video of him cosplaying something amazing at Comic-Con and wandering around being awesome at Comic-Con. Jamie Lee Curtis every year goes to BlizzCon and cosplays, not just because it's fun, but because then she gets to wander around Comic-Con and people don't go crazy because it's Jamie Lee Curtis. And a bunch of other celebrities do similar things. This year, we got to hear about the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice star Henry Cavill. He decided that he was gonna put on a Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta and go wander around Comic-Con for a bunch of different reasons, but specifically, he wanted to go meet Suicide Squad people, which I think is actually kind of adorable that he felt like he's such a fan of Suicide Squad, despite the fact that he might be, maybe, in a different movie, that he decided to go put on a mask. He took a couple of photos with some very lucky DC fans, and he surprised Will Smith at the Suicide Squad autograph session in order to be able to say hi to them. There's a couple of pictures out on the internets. He actually tweeted a picture of himself with the mask on. So go check it out. I think it's kind of adorable. As for the other adorable news that you might not have heard about, so when they talk about some of the big Marvel news, one of the things that might have gotten overlooked is some exciting Guardians of the Galaxy news. And not about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and the plot and guest stars and who's doing what and everything. It might have more to do with real space. See, NASA is full of nerds because they're awesome. And they've decided that the best way to show their nerddom this year is for the Center for the Advancement of Science in Space to announce that Groot and Rocket Raccoon will be featured on a mission patch that will represent all payloads that will head to the National Laboratory on the International Space Station. And you can see a picture of the patch out right now. It's kind of adorable. It's definitely a little more stylized. It's not going to be the movie version of either of them. It's more cutesy, especially Rocket. Rocket is kind of adorable. You got a first look at the patch at San Diego Comic-Con from James Gunn, who actually tweeted about the announcement, and he was rightfully excited. The patch was designed by Juan Doe, who has previously designed covers for Marvel, according to a press release. The Center for ISS hopes that the patch will put more eyes on the ISS and bring hope for what people can accomplish in the future. The Director of Operations and Educational Opportunities, Ken Shields, said, quote, "A major mission for us here at CASIS is to find unique and innovative ways to bring notoriety to the ISS National Laboratory and the research that is being conducted on our orbiting laboratory. the reward for us is that we actually have two characters go into space. With a little luck, there'll be a little cosmic radiation going on and they'll come back alive. Ha 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 ha. So I think that's kind of awesome. Definitely go check out the patch. As I said, it's adorable. Finally, news that has absolutely nothing to do with Comic-Con. So the United States gets a really bad rap for a lot of things, rightfully so. Guns being one of them, and crazy people being another. And also, video games get a bad rap. And definitely Pokemon Go recently has been the most recent easy target for people who like to make fun of those who are playing this game. So I would like to offer unto you the antidote to some of these ills, which is that a Canadian woman has been charged after she allegedly fired a pellet gun at Pokemon Go players from the rooftop of a Toronto area home on Monday. Witnesses said the 29-year-old woman fired at least 4 shots on Saturday night from the roof of a 2-story building. Police said in a statement, adding that no players were injured. A police spokesman said part of the street in the town of Newmarket, north of Toronto, had possibly been marked in the augmented reality game as a gym where players gathered to challenge each other. It's not immediately clear how many Pokemon Go players were on the street that night, though the police spokesman said the area had attracted them by the dozens. Quote, "There's nothing to suggest mental health issues," end quote. Police said the woman was arrested without incident and charged with assault with a weapon and possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, which is probably the most Canadian charge ever. She was charged with possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. Because let's face it, if that was something you could charge in America, half the things in my apartment would be weapons for a dangerous purchase. Each of the charges carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. So, this is semi-serious, even if I'm kind of making fun of it. So fortunately, no one was hurt. And fortunately, everything ended peacefully. But let's take a moment and appreciate the fact that I got to talk about someone shooting at video game players, not video game players doing anything wrong, but people shooting at them, and that they're Canadian. That's all for This Week in Geek. I'm oboe crazy, and when my reads are bad, my oboe is considered a weapon for dangerous purposes.
The world is indeed a strange place. If you have a fact you want read live and on the air, say for instance an astronaut asking you for your prosthetic leg for reasons, you can send it to Lauren at obocrazy.com. And while you're at it, go to glibshark.com, which is the house of all of our content. Classic Jenga Jam interviews like the one where we had Bernie Burns answer questions from the Let's Figure This Thing Out group. Or just, all-time podcasts, modern day Glibshark, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks. Glibshark.com, the house of all of our content.
And so we should probably talk a little bit about San Diego Comic-Con, because let's face it, in the past week, there's been 3 different conventions going on, and we probably don't want to talk about the other 2.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
No.
I think that San Diego is the way to go.
Yeah. So there were 20 million trailers. And I'm going to say this. Several trailers came out that made me both more excited about a movie because it made me more interested, and yet pissed me off because I felt it showed too much. The Wonder Woman trailer came out, which I think showed a huge amount of promise and interest, and I really liked where they were going, and I'm pretty sure I could tell you the plot of the entire movie from it. The Justice League trailer came out, which I think was the first hour of the movie, and even though it was awesome, it's like the first friggin' hour of the movie. What the hell? Were you guys finding the same thing?
I sort of felt the same way. Like, here, let me turn off Archer here because I don't need that on. I don't know that I felt like it was the first hour, but it definitely showed a lot. And with the Wonder Woman movie, now I don't wonder about anything. I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You did the thing.
I did the thing. So we'll talk about Star Trek a little bit more here, but I sort of felt the same way about Star Trek. I really tried to avoid trailers, but I managed to see enough where I sort of figured out the rest of the movie. And that's fine. I still had fun, but it's sort of the same deal with these trailers.
Yeah, I was particularly upset and yet conflicted about the Justice League movie because I really do feel like they basically introduced every single character, and they kind of, I mean, we won't know until we see the movie, but I feel like the a moment with the Flash, the 30 seconds, the minute and a half, however long it was, like I why was that not kept for the movie?
I have
Like
no idea.
I'm
No idea.
hoping that the rest of it, that like that is so good and the rest of it is even better, but I know that's not usually how these things work.
Oh my God. Warner Brothers, learn to Marvel better.
You know what? Marvel can be just as guilty about this.
Sure.
They've been better,
Well,
but
sure, but at
as
least they
we've
usually leave something in the tank to see in the movie theater.
and we don't know for sure about either Wonder Woman or Justice League. And I would like to think with both of those movies at this point that yeah, the DC movies haven't been doing nearly as well as Marvel, but these are not unknown properties, and at this point, these are not unknown characters. I would like to think they don't need to sell these people before they show the movie, but you know, um, Marvel, I didn't really see as much in the way of trailers from them, but there was apparently a lot of announcements. I didn't actually watch the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Did anybody see that?
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either, and I'm a little peeved because I was watching one of the episodes of The Know, and I just I got spoiled by something, like by casting news, and I didn't even like. I wasn't. That wasn't something I was looking for in that report. They were just talking about Comic-Con, and then they spoiled something about, and I'm not going to say it here. They spoiled something about Guardians of the Galaxy, and
I think I know what you're talking about,
peeved.
and that I'm bummed out about that. I saw that on comicbookreviews.com, and I didn't want to know who he was playing. Like,
Oh, I think I know too. Well,
Yeah.
I had to think about it for a second because I'm looking at the casting for Captain Marvel right now, and I'm like, he can't be talking about that because that's not a spoiler. And then I realized what you're talking about. Yeah. That kind of sucks that they spoiled that thing that we're not going to spoil.
No, we're not. And I will say though that speaking of, because we won't dwell on that, but what I will dwell on is the awesomeness that is Brie Larson being announced as Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
fucking stoked about that.
Yeah, she's got a fairly impressive resume, and I do like the unbridled glee that she announced her being Captain Marvel. That felt genuine to me, and I really liked that. But yeah, I think she's going to do a good job. I'm definitely excited about that. Um did you guys hear about the mockumentary that apparently it hasn't made its way to the internet yet? That's apparently it's the Thor mockumentary for Thor Ragnarok that got shown at Comic-Con. Did you hear about this thing?
Mm-mm.
I did not.
Okay. I'll talk about it a little bit. I don't think it actually is any type of spoilers. Because it is completely a mockumentary. It's not real, but it's shot by the director of the next Thor movie. And apparently it's a fake documentary that is supposed to be about what Thor and in a small way what the Hulk were up to during Captain America Civil War. And it's obviously not real. It's a comedy piece. And after having seen Ghostbusters, the new one, and having seen Chris Hemsworth be funny as shit, I kind of want to see him be funny as shit as Thor because I've read over. It's basically like Thor goes to Australia and moves in with this guy Daryl because he needed some me time, and so part of the mockumentary is like Thor being Thor with a roommate, and apparently found him on Craigslist, and like Daryl is trying to clean the apartment while Thor's hammer is just lying around in different places. And the whole time Thor keeps mentioning about how he keeps hearing about these things going on with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, but neither of them will call him or contact him in any way, and how he's beginning to feel slighted, and eventually finally gets together with Bruce Banner, and they have this conversation of like, I don't understand why neither of us have been contacted. And Thor finally admits he doesn't have a phone. He needs someone to send him a raven. Like, I kind of want to see this thing. This sounds funny. And now that I know that I've just lost his name. The guy who plays Bruce Banner.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. Thank you. Thank you, both Jenga and Luke. I know he can do comedy, and now that I've seen Ghostbusters, I know for a fact that Hemsworth can do comedy. So I really want to see this thing, but apparently it hasn't made its way to the internet yet. So if anyone knows where this thing is, let me know.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see it. I'm sure it's going to end up like an extra on the Thor Ragnarok DVD. That
would be good. And you know what? I think if they put this out as kind of counter, not programming, but like, here we are complaining about trailers giving away too much of a movie. To put this out there, this sounds like a several-minute mockumentary that would give zero away about anything. It'd just be fun. And this could be the perfect thing to put out. As you know, Ragnarok is probably a lot more serious than this, but I still totally want to see this thing. Also, apparently, they showed a lot of concept art, and they showed Jeff Goldblum sitting next to Loki, and I just kind of want to see that too, because Jeff Goldblum fascinates me in ways that I can't really describe.
As does he us all.
Yeah.
Is that a good sentence?
It is now. Moving on to other trailers and teasers and stuff, they dropped a Luke Cage trailer. Did you guys watch that?
Oh, man, I didn't see Luke.
Did see the Luke Cage trailer. I thought it was... Since we've already seen Luke Cage in action, it had, I think, a little bit less of an impact, but it was still pretty cool. And I think it speaks to the particular tone of that series versus what he did in Jessica Jones.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. They dropped a teaser for Iron Fist, which was like 15 seconds or something. So I don't think there is even too much to talk about. There's almost too little. There was the I don't know if the Doctor Strange trailer was associated with Comic-Con or if it just came out at the same time, but I saw the new trailer for Doctor Strange, which I actually will lump in with the DC trailers, in where it not only made me more excited about the movie, but I think it gave away too much.
Yeah, I specifically didn't watch that one. I've already decided that I'm going to see not Captain America, but Doctor Strange. So I don't feel like I need to see any more trailers.
I like your rule, Roadblock, where it's like you watch the first trailer and you make the decision, or the teaser, and make the decision based on that, and then avoid the rest. That's smart. That way you don't get anything spoiled for you 98% of the time.
I totally agree with you, and I will say, having seen that, I don't regret that trailer, because I was still a little on the fence about Doctor Strange. That trailer has now made me more excited, but yeah, you will want to avoid it. I think it gives some pretty big stuff. I think it gives away the first 30 minutes of the movie. I'm trying to see now. I'm like running out of shit to talk about. Do we want to talk about The Killing Joke?
No.
Okay.
There doesn't need to be from everything I've heard, it's probably a subject we'd best avoid.
Moving right along.
I do want to say one thing about it, and this is, I won't talk about the plot or anything like that. From what I've heard about this, it has made me the opposite of everything we were just talking about. I was super excited about this because of the voice cast, because it was Mark Hamill and Tara Strong, and it's the original Batman animated series cast, who are fantastic. And then hearing what all the news that's out there, which you can go and read about, I'm now not sure if I'm going to watch it at all. Moving along. Of course, I say moving along, and I don't have anything else. Was there anything else you guys heard about from Comic-Con?
I mean, to be honest, I've kind of been paying attention to that other convention, which we're not going to talk about this week.
Oh no, I've been totally paying attention to both of those conventions, the Republican and the Democratic National Convention, obviously.
Did you see the Colbert Hungry for Power Games bit that he did for the DNC?
No.
That was the RNC, I thought.
No, he did one for the RNC. He also did one. He was in Philly.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
So what was funny about that was that at the Cleveland RNC, he got up on stage, they let him, and then like one guy came off, and I was pretty sure it was Stage to escort him off the podium. This time, they were not allowing him on the podium. Like there was a set of security guards that were just like, no, you're not getting on the podium. And they said, Mr. Colbert, you're not getting on that podium. So they know exactly who he was. And then he managed to get on. Spoiler alert. And they like Dianna Feinstein couldn't get him on the podium. Like security was like, Miss Feinstein, you and your kids are welcome to go on. Mr. Colbert, you're not getting on that. You're not getting on that platform.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, the only thing that I got a chance to see was Jon Stewart on the Colbert. It's not the Colbert Show. It's Stephen Colbert. Yeah, on his late show doing his rant, which was sadly a beautiful throwback to the Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
To what is bafflingly a simpler time.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it was amazing. It's once again, he's preaching to the choir as far as I'm concerned, so sure. That helps a lot. And I did watch. Luke and I are huge fans of Last Week Tonight, so we've been watching that as well. So yeah, I love how we're not going to talk about the conventions, but we'll talk about all the comedy bits that come out around the conventions.
Let's talk about the things we say we're not going to talk about.
Well, we've.
I was just talking about Colbert.
Exactly.
Sure,
I was just talking about John Oliver.
And it's just comedic gold. I mean, it's like either party at the height of their sort of, I don't want to say hubris necessarily, but like they're basically infomercials for the party, which makes them ripe for parody. I think exactly. On either side, which is perfect. So it keeps our satirists in business and keeps the gears of the economy turning.
Absolutely. And as much as we try to not talk about politics on the show, these are important things for Americans to be paying attention to. And I think we can all agree we encourage our listeners to have paid attention to these conventions and to register to vote.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, whether you like either candidate, there's all kinds of down ticket stuff. Like the local people probably have a bigger role in your day-to-day life than what happens in the sideshow at the very top. Like there's all kinds of things they're trying to sneak in under your nose. You want to pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhood. Move closer to your world, my friends. Register to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so if we're done talking about Comic-Con and we're not talking about politics, I'm going to go back to talk about Chris Hemsworth, both because he's a beautiful, beautiful man, and I saw Ghostbusters, as I mentioned. And I know Jonathan talked about Ghostbusters last week, but I saw it on Sunday, and it was fun. And it was a lot of fun. And I just wanted to say it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I now actually have a new song that I'm going to be purchasing off of Amazon because it is not often that a soundtrack that is not an orchestral soundtrack comes out, or I'm sitting in a theater listening to like the songs at the end of the movie during credits, and I'm like, holy shit, I really like this song. But that friggin' happened during Ghostbusters. Ellie King put out Good Girls. And you can go listen to it on YouTube. Vivo put out the official music video. It's fucking fantastic. I'm kind of in love with this song. I made Luke listen to it the entire ride home from the movie theater. Like halfway through the song in the movie theater, it was during the end credits. So I was turning my phone on and I'm like, I need to find out what this song is because I need to buy it.
Oh man, Ellie King. Her dad was in Surf Ninjas.
and her music is
Who
kind
was
of
her dad
awesome.
in Surf Ninjas?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider is Ellie King's dad?
Yeah, Google it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know that either.
Making copies.
You just blew my mind. I am not a fan of Rob Schneider, but I am a hella fan of his daughter. Holy shit. Anyway, I highly recommend you go see Ghostbusters. I'm pretty positive I seem to remember Jonathan saying the same thing last week, so I'm just echoing his statements. It is super funny. It is there are a lot of callbacks and throwbacks, but I don't think you need to recognize them or even have seen the original movie for this movie to be funny. Like there's really very little that, you know, there's moments that made me go, oh, nostalgia, but they're also very funny in their own right. And the cast is fantastic. All four of the leading ladies are amazing. Even some of the little roles that come out were all filled with really good character actors. And yeah, Chris Hemsworth is a big giant beefcake who takes the best publicity photos ever of all time.
That was I did enjoy that. I was thinking about Ghostbusters more, especially after I saw Star Trek. And I will have to say that I think while my opinion of Ghostbusters might be lowering a little, my opinion, and I think it's directly related to Star Trek, because Ghostbusters I thought was a fine, amusing movie, and there are things about it that I'm really glad that happened. I'm glad that it was relatively successful. I'm glad that its merchandising was successful. I mean, like, people are buying Ghostbusters action figures, and I think that's awesome. And I just hope that it carries over for when Captain Marvel will probably make her appearance in Infinity War, that those action figures fly off the shelves. Let people, like little girls, start dressing up as Captain Marvel. I think that'll be awesome.
I love the fact now that because there are now both male and female Ghostbusters, that now you can go and cosplay as a Ghostbuster irregardless of your gender. And you know what? You can cosplay as anything regardless of your gender, but there's kind of always the understanding of, oh, the original character is a blah and you're gender bending, which is not a bad thing. But now you're just being a Ghostbuster, and that's fucking awesome. I don't know if I want to hear about Star Trek. If you want to wait until the end so that you can do a spoiler thing and I'll leave, I totally understand. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit non-spoilery right now.
Absolutely, I want to talk a little non-spoilery, and I think Jack probably does too.
Go for it.
Yep.
I loved it. It was I was asked by someone that I was rating with on Sunday night which I preferred, Star Trek, like the first movie in the reboot, or this one. And at the time, I said that I wasn't sure. And now that I've had a few days to kind of think about it and take it all in, I like the first one better. I think it is simpler, and it's a bit more straightforward. I will say that this movie does things that the first one could not, because it's got a cast of established characters, and it makes for a very rewarding experience. As rewarding as the first one? No. But still good.
Well, I'm actually going to disagree. I thought of the three of the new trilogy in the alternate timeline, that this one is actually, I'm going to write it's just a hair above the first one. I loved it. I loved the whole story of these characters sort of maturing and all the individual character arcs. I love how everybody got sort of a decent amount of screen time, that it wasn't like just the Kirk show or just the Spock show, although those characters certainly got their time as well. I don't want to get too much into the spoiler stuff, but it felt more full in a way that Into Darkness, it felt like it empty, like in terms of the worlds that they're in. I love the special effects. I love the fight scenes. I love the dialogue. Oh man, I'm gonna have to table my enthusiasm for the spoiler cast, because I'm just brimming with effusive praise for this film. But if you haven't seen it yet, by all means, go out. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it is like the pillar that I put the first Star Trek movie on is very high, because what that movie did is it convinced me that the reboot was a good idea. which was a very, very hard thing to do because as you and I have talked about, I love Deep Space Nine, and this is moving past Deep Space Nine. It's like we're gonna ignore that part and do this other story, and I had a big problem with that because this is a valuable, like, Deep Space Nine is a valuable property. It is good stories. And for this Star Trek movie to just come along and not erase it, but just move past it, I wasn't convinced. And in the first 10 minutes, Star Trek convinced me. And that's why I put it a bit ahead of Beyond. That said, Beyond is a fantastic Star Trek movie. Just so good because it does have action, but it kind of revisits the sort of ideals that Star Trek has, like Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. Like, this could have easily, it's more epic in scale than anything that Gene Roddenberry did with Star Trek. But I feel like it's more in his spirit than just about any other Star Trek movie, with the exceptions of maybe Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Voyage Home.
I'm really glad to hear you guys say that because up until the movie came out, everything I've been hearing had been very down. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was just the reviewers I was hearing, but no one was giving this exciting or, thumbs up or anything. And then it came out, and I am now consistently hearing from people whose opinion I respect, like you two gentlemen, saying not just that it's good or fun, but that it is excellent and amazing and worth going to see. So I'm really happy to hear, because up until it came out, I was thinking I might wait for this thing to come out on Netflix. And now I think I'm going to save up a few bucks and go see it in the theater.
Oh, glad doing that. And it was similar for me. Like, I saw the first trailer and I'm like, okay. I was like, and when I heard that J.J. Abrams was out and that Justin Lin was going to direct, I'm like, I mean, my wife loves those Fast and the Furious movies, but like, I wasn't a huge fan. I'm like, oh man, they're going full on action film with this thing. That's what it looked like to me. Just great on this film, and then I went and saw it, and of course, it kind of surprised you. It's like, that's the biggest knock on the whole new reboot on Star Trek. That was heavy on action, not so much on the ideals. And I agree with Jonathan 100%. Like, they, put those ideas and, the philosophy, which is the hallmark of all great science fiction. So I would almost say that Star Trek is Star Trek again.
Good. I will make the time and the money to go see it. And hey, if you guys want to do some spoilery stuff at the end, you just let me know when you're ready, and I will bugger off, because I don't think I've actually been spoiled on anything, because I could not tell you the plot of the new Star Trek movie if you asked me, because I think the only trailer I saw was the trailer that's just a bunch of explosions, which was one of the reasons that I kind of believed people when they were being very meh about it beforehand, because all I saw was a bunch of explosions. And explosions are fun, but they're not Star Trek.
Well, let's check off the rest of the items on our agenda, and then we can probably double back to the spoiler cast. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I wanted to say that I did finish both the first season of Mr. Robot and the third season of BoJack Horseman.
You have been...
I was a little sick this weekend, so I didn't really make it far beyond my couch. And so I took care of a bunch of TV.
Nice. I watched I'm trying to think of stuff that we haven't talked about.
I'd love to say before we move on that BoJack Horseman continues to be BoJack Horseman. If you've liked and inflicted BoJack Horseman onto yourself these last 2 seasons because you hate yourself and you don't think you're worth anything, then that's fine. That is right where you need to be, and right where you need to be as far as your emotional state. Mr. Robot is an excellent TV show. It's on Amazon Prime if you've got it, and I recommend it. It's sort of the same vein as other good TV dramas. It's only 10 episodes. It's really It's really, really good.
I only saw the first episode of season 3 of BoJack Horseman, and so far so good. I kind of love that show, but I feel like my attention is shifting. I feel like, just to keep myself sane and from being too sad, I'm going to focus on Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter. Just because I'm more of a Mr. Peanut Butter guy, I think.
Peanut butter. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. Sorry.
That's fine. Not for everybody, I guess. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. And I guess I'm watching a lot of wrestling, but I'll spare you. Wrestling's fun. I like it. Go Sasha Banks. Those are my thoughts on wrestling.
Those are all of my thoughts on wrestling. Hey, I like that philosophy. If you're enjoying it and having fun, there you go. I've definitely become, as I've gotten older, I would like to think I've become more tolerant of other people's enjoyment of shit. And by shit, I mean just anything, like not bad things. I literally mean like the shit I watch, the shit you watch, the shit everybody watches. And you know what? If you enjoy it, I don't think you should feel guilty about enjoying it, because that's what entertainment is for. And just because I don't watch it or just because you don't watch it doesn't mean that it isn't fun to watch.
Right. And I mean, like I enjoy it. I'm not really ashamed of it. I've been watching for decades now at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel the need to talk too much about it. Like, I think it's the wrong crowd for it. Like, if I had Travi on here, I'd probably talk for a while about it, or talk Tony Spencer. But you guys, I like it. I'm enjoying it.
We should get Travi back on here.
I'll leave it there.
We should get Travi back on here so you can talk to him.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit him up because I know he's watching too.
So I've been keeping, most of what I've been watching continues to be Dungeons and Dragons shows of a variety of sorts. They've kind of taken over my life, partially because there's a lot of really good ones out there, and partially because, unlike, say, conventional TV or even Netflix shows, every episode is like 3 or 4 hours long. So, oh god, it's a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. What's not Dungeons and Dragons that I've been watching, I continue to keep up with Red versus Blue. That's been coming out, and it has been consistently a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of our friends, especially with how much Rooster Teeth has been putting out, it's been hard to keep up with all of their stuff. But Red versus Blue continues to be just my staple show for them. I have come to the conclusion that next week, when the last episode of Day 5 finally drops, I will sit down with Luke, and the two of us will do a binge watching of the entire season, because we just haven't watched any of it, even though we want to. And so we're just going to do that. And I watched both parts of the documentary that Bernie and Gavin put out about their journey to India to go see the world's greatest head massage guy.
I will say that the thing I liked about that the most is seeing the look on their faces when they are at different points in their journey.
Yeah.
They have this sense of wonderment that is just that is amazing. It really is.
Bernie especially. Bernie is much more effusive in his awe at certain points in the second part of the documentary. Gavin, I think, either through editing or just him being a little more reserved, you don't see it quite so much. He talks about it, and he talks very eloquently about it. But you're absolutely right. I really enjoyed the documentary. I think the second half especially was really good.
There's a moment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just the second half, them going to India, thumbs up. Go ahead.
I was going to say that that there's a moment that Gavin has where he's like standing somewhere, like drinking some chai tea, and he just has this look like, yeah, I'm here drinking chai tea and in India. It's an amazing look on his face, and I think that is one of the best things about that documentary. It's incredibly well made. Awesome journey.
Now, I will say this. Here's my one tiny criticism, and it's even less criticism, and it's more just general envy. Gavin mentions, and it's very obvious, that they dropped a lot of money in the planning of this thing. and that there was very little expense spared. They booked hotel rooms in very nice hotels. They hired porters and a guide. They were shepherded through India, which, you know what, is kind of the way to go, because partially because if you've got the money, then you might as well have the best experience possible. But also, this wasn't a documentary about Bernie and Gavin's adventures in India. It was a documentary about them finding this specific guy about these specific things. So, it wasn't really about, let's go ride an elephant and, explore India and try all this fabulous food. But there was a moment where they're being ushered into this extravagantly gorgeous hotel where I'm like, God damn, I wish I had the money to do this.
Yeah, that was an amazing, even some of the hotels that maybe wouldn't be quote unquote as great still looked really cool. And it's one of those deals where I don't know if Bernie and Gavin realize how lucky they are. I think they do, but they are incredibly fortunate individuals to have been taken on this journey.
Well, I think they do. I think they totally realize it. And I think Bernie especially, I think totally gets I think he not only gets how lucky they are, but how extra lucky they are to be able to do this for basically everybody else's entertainment.
And as someone who's been in India a few times, I kind of have to watch this now just to see what their reactions are to something that's, well, depending on where they go, it's relatively familiar to me, or at least more familiar it would be to most of our listeners and most of our audience. And it's kind of cool, just the idea that they've done one on for themselves, that they can actually do a documentary about them going all the way to India. That's not a cheap trip at all.
No. Yeah, and Jenga, as I said, it's not really about them going to India. It's about them going to find this guy who just happens to be in India. Like, they talk about some of the experiences they have in India, and certainly, but it's not a touristy trip. But I would love for you to at least watch. It's in 2 parts, and the first part is basically all explanations about ASMR and how they found this guy and their whole history behind seeing his videos. And then the second half is them actually going to India. So even if you only watch the second half, I'd love to hear your take, having been there many times. That'd be very cool.
It's on my to-do list.
Yeah, and I think it's only the whole documentary is only, I think, an hour. I think each part is only about 30 minutes. So definitely, if you are I think you have to be a sponsor. I think you have to be a first member. What are we calling ourselves now? I don't know. You have to be a sponsor, I think, to watch it at all. But hey, go be a sponsor. It's cheap.
And I think with that, it's actually a perfect hedgeway into our discussion. We got like 10 minutes left. Like, we can talk about Star Trek Into Darkness, unless there's anything else.
Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Into Darkness sucked.
That's true. Yeah. Here we go. Star Trek Beyond. Yeah. Okay. We're done talking about Star Trek Into Darkness now. Let's move on to Star Trek Beyond.
Let us run very quickly away. Okay. Was there anything else? So if you guys are going to talk spoilery, then I'm going to say goodnight.
Good night, Lauren. You can follow her at OboCrazy on the Twitters. Thanks so much as always.
Good night.
Night.
All right. We are going to be starting Star Trek Beyond spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Yorktown. I have to talk about Yorktown first.
So I'm very rarely wowed these days in movies, but looking at Station Yorktown, and I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And just thinking about it was just really awesome.
It was like Deep Space Nine meets Manhattan meets the Citadel with a little bit of Inception on the side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It just looked incredible. I'm like, wow, they can do that with space stations. It makes sense. Like that, if you're able to build large enough a structure like that millions of people would live on there from all different things. And it's a perfect symbol right there on the frontier of all the things that the Federation is supposed to stand for. So you have a very visible thing there that sort of indicates, what's at stake in many ways. And
specifically
Sulu's family.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I thought the little nod to his family was cool. I did like that he has a daughter in this universe as well,
Yeah,
just like the Prime universe.
and the coolest thing is, it's no big deal, which is kind of a reflection of where we are as a society. As far as a lot of LGBT stuff is still controversial, still laws meant to discriminate against them. But like just in terms of how the average person perceives a gay couple, like it's a lot more visible and accepted now than it has been at any point in our history. So to see it dealt with that way in Star Trek, I thought was fitting. Like, it's understated, it's not in your face, it's not, oh, I accept you. It's just like it's seen as perfectly normal and almost boring to Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Well, he's going through his existential crisis about, being lost in space, as it were. And I like that.
Da 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 da. Lost in Space theme.
Yeah, I like that arc that for Kirk. Actually, I thought it was perfect. It's like, all right, he's in the middle of his mission. There's a malaise that remind me of in kind of a weird way. You know that opening montage, the music medley, like in early on in season 6 of Deep Space Nine, where Kira gets up and goes to work with the collaborators. Morning, Sam. Morning, Ralph, and the whole routine of it, the banality of it,
Yeah.
and how you saw it on her face. Like she's not working. Granted, Kirk's not working for fascist oppressors or anything like that. But you could see like the grind sort of be like, all right, is that all there is? What was all the fuss? And to see that answered, I thought was, and you wondered going into this, like where the generic action stuff. It's like, all right, so there's a villain. He's a bad lizard guy. What's the big deal? Where's the commentary? And then bam, it hits you right in the face.
Okay, actually, I thought the reverse of that. So in the movie, the leader of the adversary of the opposing force is a guy named Krull, and he is after an artifact and a weapon of great power. I loved that when he was talking to Uhura and she was bringing up how great the Federation is and how it's bringing people together. I loved his counter argument that bringing people together may not always be the best thing. That sort of Darwin sort of thinking, the strong are the only ones that survive. You get stronger through struggle. Peace makes you weak. And it's not a viewpoint I agree with, but I'm glad he had a viewpoint. And I'm glad he was, and when I was watching the movie, I was glad that he was just not another guy who hated the Federation, who was out for revenge. Because we've gotten that a lot. We've gotten that with Khan. We've gotten that with Nero. We got that with Khan again. And so the last 2 reboot movies were bad dudes looking for revenge against the Federation. And so I'm like, oh, this is good. We have a guy who he doesn't hate the Federation just for like revenge. He hates what the Federation stands for. He opposes it. And that's refreshing. And then it turns out he's just a bad dude looking for revenge against the Federation.
Yeah, but the reasons why I thought were more compelling than your average I hate the Federation, because I like that he comes from Archer's time, that he references the Xindi and the Romulans. I love that, he has that whole captain's perspective where they put him in the chair and he got lost in space. So there's a perfect mirroring of Kirk's experience there. And then like you think for a few steps left or right, but for the friends that Kirk had, Kirk could have easily ended up like this guy. And I thought that made me think.
I don't disagree with that. And I think that I did think it was cool that they referenced the Xindi, the Romulans, Makos. He was a Mako?
Yeah.
I thought that was badass.
Well, a reminder that Enterprise is canon in both universes.
Yes. Sadly. Fucking damn it. So I did I appreciated that. I thought that was cool. I thought the different those references were neat. However, like I said, I think it was brought down by the fact that in the end he was simply just another bad guy looking for revenge. And I had hopes that he wouldn't be. I still, like I said, I still like the references. I still think he was a good villain, but he was on the same. He didn't really rise above some of the more common Star Trek villains.
Well, fair enough. But how about the attention that each of the scores got? That they paired Kirk with Chekhov, the burgeoning ladies' man, and how sad is it that Anton Yelchin, who put on such a great performance in this film, won't be able to reprise the character?
That it's tragic, and that's one thing I did not expect about this movie was how it would tug on the heartstrings. The news that Ambassador Spock had died, the finding of the old cast's portrait among Spock's belongings. That hit me hard. I was like, wow, that is an incredible moment.
Yeah, and a lot of them are already gone. DeForest Kelly,
James
Leonard
Doohan.
Nimoy, James Doohan, I think Walter Koenig recently passed away too, right?
No, Walter Koenig, I
He's still with
believe, is
us?
still alive.
Okay. So it's really just him and Kirk and Uhura. They're all that's left.
Yep, and what's kind of sad is that the original actor who played Chekhov outlived the new actor playing Chekhov.
Yeah. But, I mean, on the side, and how perfect is it that they put Bones and Spock together?
That was great. That
Inspired.
was really great.
And I just love...
I love the pairings too. That was phenomenal.
And they did a good thing. They had the original cast there, but they balanced it out with some new members. I'm not sure I'm saying right. Jayla?
Jayla was great.
Jayla was badass. I loved Jayla. And it's interesting that they actually had a whole bunch of female characters in this film, more than usual. Like where they had the one like sort of spy lady with a big head, and then they had the other like recruit who was hiding the artifact in her hair. And they didn't have a lot to do necessarily, but in fact,
I don't know that I'd call that hair. That's more like backwards head claws. Like if you've played the raid King's Fall, her back of the head looked a lot like Gogoroth, and that was a little disturbing.
yeah. And I like that, the universe and everything, that they're doing more, and they can do more than you can do with television, where you can have a whole diverse array of aliens, where you see all these creatures that I don't think we've ever seen in the Star Trek universe before. And I don't know if that's a result of them exploring different parts of space because of the incursion or the whole Nero thing, or if it's because like they're actually showing stuff that you would hear about but would never see on the original series.
I loved the opening where Kirk was negotiating with with what looked to be these giant beasts, and then it turns out that they're barely bigger than a Pekingese. And then you see one at the end at the birthday party. That's the guy. That's Kevin, who Kirk is like, "Hey, Kevin, still not wearing pants, huh?"
Yeah, and just the charm that Chris Pine brings to that Kirk character. Like, I think that was perfectly cast. I think they all are. They're all really good reflections of the original characters, at the same time bringing their own unique twist to it, where to the point where... And we didn't even talk about Scotty at all. Like, Simon Pegg, who wrote the film, who knocked it out of the park with this script, I believe. Giving him that time to sort of have that bond relationship. They gave him something to do with Jayla, and I thought it was perfect for him.
Yeah, of all the pairings, I think that one was probably the most refreshing, just because it was nice to. It was a great way to introduce that character.
Yeah, and I hope we see more of her when they do another film. And I hope they do another film. Like, I feel like these things naturally build towards trilogies, and you could see them. Like, if they stopped, I'd actually be kind of sad, but okay with it. I think they told in many ways a complete story. There aren't really many loose ends. They had a whole self-contained kind of thing, right? And if they stopped, I'd be okay with it, but at the same time, I'm also ready for another adventure.
Yeah, same. I'm ready to see them in something else. I can't wait to see what comes next.
Well, it sounds like it's just an enthusiastic, unanimous Glib Shark thumbs up for Star Trek Beyond.
Absolutely. It's probably the best sci-fi film this year so far. I think I would put it above Civil War.
Wow, that's high praise. But I can understand that point of view. And I guess I'm going to be watching Suicide Squad in a couple weeks. I'll probably make time for Ghostbusters this coming weekend if I can convince the missus to go with me. But if there's not anything else, our sound producer is Jonathan, Enterprise A, Cerna.
I thought that was cool. And see, one of the things I was spoiled on was the fact that the Enterprise got destroyed because it was in the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said our most advanced ship is still under construction, I'm like, oh, well, there's the Enterprise A.
Yeah. I kind of figured that much out too. Our announcer is voice actor Bob Ball. Our theme music is done by Linnea Boyev. So on behalf of Lauren Urban, Jonathan Cerna, and the entire Glib Shark staff, this is Jack Edithil saying good night, good health, and live long and prosper.
All right, streamers, thank